I had this sweet potato I wanted to show you. It was shaped like a seahorse. Anyway, I dropped it. And I guess what could be considered the head of it popped off. It's funny. I don't use sweet potatoes often in my cooking. And every time I do, I'm like, why are you not eating more of these? What's your favorite pie? I know that's kind of like left field or, your left. But all this talk about sweet potatoes kind of has me thinking I associate sweet potatoes with my favorite pie, sweet potato pie, which is probably why I don't eat them as often, thinking you might want to stay away from eating pie ingredients all year long. I know that makes no sense, but it's kind of how my brain works. At some point in the year, I realize I'm just being silly and I create something like this. Vegan chorizo stuffed sweet potato. I love a recipe like this because it's such a different way to play with like the sweet and spicy elements of cooking. And of course, you could tone down the spice, and we'll talk about that. There's a few options you can go about getting your potato ready for stuffing or loading, since stuffing sounds a little Thanksgiving-like to me. You can use a fork, poke a bunch of holes in it, and microwave it, which should save you about 10-15 minutes, or my preferred method, which is roasting it. No need to poke holes in it when you're roasting, as there's no concern for exploding like it would in the microwave. I prefer roasting because it caramelizes the potato between like the flesh and skin layers. I guess that should be reversed. Skin's usually on top. But also, if you want to eat the skin, you could rub it with like some olive oil, and that makes it like super crispy, almost like potato chips. Don't forget to wash your potato skin though. It's like super dirty on the outside. If you're more of a regular potato person, you could follow this very same process and use like a russet. Russets have like a just beautiful thick skin, although you would miss the satisfaction of that sweetness you get from the caramel flavor when doing a sweet potato. Our protein this week, walnuts. And no worries, there's, other options we can use if you're allergic or just prefer some other option. Since we're using walnuts and they're not a softer nut by nature, we're going to spend some time soaking them prior. For a quick turnaround, you could use boiling hot water, but don't forget to put it in a heat-proof bowl. Otherwise, you could set this up with room temperature water and have it sit overnight. An alternative option, if you want to stay within the nut family, could be pecans. Other options could be tofu, TVP, plant crumbles, and none of these options require that, additional soaking step or food processing step. When we get into the cooking, we're toasting our spices a bit different than we have in the past. In making the chorizo, you aren't using any onions or red peppers or anything like that to start. Starting off using just oil and spices. I don't even turn on the heat right away. I make like a paste almost, and then I turn the heat on. It helps you freak out a little less. You don't have to, move super quickly before anything burns. Also, be careful when you add that vinegar in. I actually turn off the heat to encourage less of that volcano-like thing happening between the oil and the vinegar once you get it in there. Once the walnuts are in there, you're well on your way, as you're pretty much just stirring them around until they soften a bit more. If you don't have apple cider vinegar, another good pantry staple could be lemons in place of that. I also use ancho chili powder, which you could swap for basic chili powder. Ancho chili powder is actually a bit sweeter, not very spicy. So if you want to tone down the spice, you can reduce the cayenne or add zero. I used to enjoy loaded or stuffed potatoes. Do you say loaded or stuffed? I think I say both naturally. But those potatoes I used to enjoy with sour cream. So in making the tahini mixture, I actually geared it to be more thick, sort of like a sour cream. But some people like more of a drizzly feel, kind of like a dressing. So you can add some hot water into the tahini, mix that up, and you can get a perfect drizzle just like that. This recipe can be found linked in the description or check it out on my website, makeitdairyfree.com. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, believe in good. Peace.